Hey, sister.
Hey, sister.
Join me, Courtney Lewis,
And me, Carly Ferguson,
in our conversational podcast about everyday situations.
You can count on us to tell it to you straight with our own sisterly spin.
Consider this a phone call with your own Southern sisters as we discuss with you personal accountability, healthy relationships, managing responsibilities, and contributing to society.
Each episode will consist of straight talk and a call to action.
Your sisters are calling.
Thanks for answering.
Welcome to Hey Sister. This is episode 33, Fun Mom Summer. We're here to kick off our summer series themed Hot Topics. Over the next 2 months, we're going to be diving deep into topics we feel passionately about that come up regularly in our phone calls. If you've been part of our sisterhood for long, you know that I live in Arizona and Carly lives in Texas. So a lot of our conversations, including our podcast recordings, happen with the help of technology. That means we start a lot of phone calls that we never finish due to bad connections and little kids who don't always appreciate our desire to talk to one another.
I would say it's most of the time the little children. It's like, I gotta go change a diaper.
Or kids that come up to us because they're trying to sneak some candy and abuse the fact that we're distracted on the phone.
I feel like that is a common occurrence, right? Like you get on the phone and all of a sudden the kids feel like that's the time to come to you with all of the demands and questions and things.
So today Carly and I are really excited because we're actually recording in the same room with Carly visiting me in Tucson. We're going to use this time to our advantage and have a full conversation about the hot topic of play places being closed across America and what we're going to do about it. So, Carly, I'm going to turn the time over to you, and I want you to share the experience that you had driving from Waco to Tucson to visit me.
Yeah, I've definitely brought this up most of the time in our calls and chats on the phone because in Waco, for some reason, the Chick-fil-A, the McDonald's, I even called Burger King, any place that has a play place, they've not opened up. And it's not that I just adore fast food. I mean, I do like the convenience of fast food at times when it gets really hot in the summer in Texas. Like here we're talking about hot topics and it gets really hot and it's just nice to have options where you can go inside in an indoor area. And I've got 3 little ones who are escape artists. So the idea of a contained area that they can have a play place and it's something different than the usual. It's great. I've been really missing that in Waco for some reason. They're not open. And surprisingly, on the drive to Tucson, which seemed like we were going into another galaxy, just driving forever, we got out of the car. Even my husband was like, I feel like we're on Mars. When you go west in Texas, it's beautiful, it's just windy and very flat. So we got out at Fort Stockton and there was a McDonald's and it had a play place. And so we were like, should we go in? Yeah, of course. The kids have been strapped in a car 9 hours. So we got in and the kids had a great time. I think it was really good for them not only to stretch their legs, but there was another little girl and another little boy that were there that they got to interact with, and we were able to just take a moment to enjoy them enjoying themselves, having a good time, and we're just eating our French fries and milkshake in peace for a split second. But it's just one of those things that is so nice to have places that consider what the young family or family with young ones would need to go play. There were also screens next to it, though, that wasn't really for our age of children. But there comes a time where you need something for your kids to be able to go and do. We love Hat Creek, and I've mentioned it, I think, a couple times in this podcast, but that's not everywhere. And so I've just been kind of confused for a while why places haven't reopened. But in talking to Courtney, we had some good conversations about it that helped us to get an idea as to maybe why they might not be open, and it's really just speculation, but those are the kinds of things help to think about. Are they really just attacking us, or is there a reason behind this, a real thing?
It feels very personal, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Here we are, stay-at-home moms with a few kids. Carly's got 3, I've got 4, and it feels like ever since the pandemic started, that was the beginning of play places being closed. And we've got some speculation. We've obviously had some talks, and sometimes it even turns into almost maybe like a conspiracy theory of, oh, they just hate our children. In fact, I felt pretty bad the other day when we were driving actually to go to a wedding out of state, and my son said to me and my husband, why do they hate children? He didn't say hate, actually. We say that that's a bad word in our house. Why does nobody like children anymore? And I thought,
that's so funny.
Maybe my husband and I shouldn't articulate these kinds of thoughts. That seems like a thought that he didn't come up with on his own. So I realized that we need to have a better outlook about this. And I think that's the purpose of this episode today and our conversations is we don't want to just be ranting about our frustrations, although I do want to speak to the thoughts that we've had. We've kind of boiled it down to 3 reasons that we think that play places have been closed across America. Maybe they're true, maybe they're not, but one of the main ones that Carly brought up was fear of liability.
Oh yeah, totally. I think there was so much fear and has been for the past couple of years. It's hard because it really affects the children. We can all recall the sad image of these beautiful playgrounds just wrapped in caution tape. Ugh. Like the swings taken away or tied up, and signs saying that there'd be a fine or something if you were to be caught playing. Like, where are we? What's that place in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? That, like...
The Island of Misfit Toys?
No. With the guy... The mayor. That's the bad mayor who doesn't like toys. Oh, gosh.
I just want to say Humperdinck.
But it's something like that. Yeah. The Burgermeister. Yes.
I'm so proud of you for coming up with
you.
that. That was a journey.
Please don't take that all out.
Okay, we won't.
It was worth the wait.
I think, the Burgermeister didn't like the joy that was brought to children, and it definitely feels like this fear of liability that these places don't want to be accountable for if a child gets sick. And at this point, we're going to not make this political and talk about the effects of COVID for children, but at least Carly and I feel that it's a risk that we're willing to take to subject our children to play places. And if the play places would open, we would be the first in line to let them enjoy that play place. So fear of liability might be a real concern for some locations not wanting to open up. Another one that we've talked about is convenience, right? Mm-hmm. Who really wants to keep a play place open if they're getting away without having one, right? If they're going to make money on people just coming and going and buying food and leaving immediately, or coming to, for example, our public library. They haven't started story time yet for the children, and that makes me really sad because why do they really need to, right? Mm-hmm. Like, people are going to borrow books regardless of if there's a story time offered for children, and so they don't really need to. And you feel kind of bad even, like I feel bad ragging on my local library because I love our local library, but that's not something they've decided to offer yet. They've got plenty of coloring sheets for you to come in, grab, and take and go. Like they have like little things like that, but they haven't returned to what used to be one of our favorite aspects of our community. So
that's sad. That's sad.
There was the convenience, and then obviously cost saving, right? Like you're not going to want to have to pay employees to clean the play place. And you brought up the other day when we were talking, it's not just cleaning the play place, it's cleaning the toilets, right? Because if you're having toddlers that are staying longer times, that means that you're going to have more diapers thrown away in a bathroom. You're going to have more need for toilet paper in the restrooms and more soap. Like,
I mean, all those the seats alone that they sit in, right? Like everything gets everywhere when you have kids. So I understand that part, but that's also the convenience of being able to take the kids in. I feel like most of these places are built on the backs of young families who need a reprieve from the normal day-to-day and an option. So this is obviously modern conveniences. It's not something that we need on a regular basis, but when we just see that it's not offered to the extent that it used to be, it makes us sad. It makes us feel like, as a society, we're turning our view towards things that aren't related to rearing children and things like that. Like, if only everywhere was like Disneyland, you know?
where they have the sinks that accommodate the height of the children.
Yeah.
And they were just, my kids loved that was a consideration for them, and they felt like they were big enough and fully accommodated, like their needs were anticipated. And that is something that it's hard as a mom to feel like your needs aren't being anticipated. And like you said, it's not a need, it's a want. But that's where it's hard, because it's hard to have something that was offered to you freely being taken away. And we're not just going to rant about this, right? But here's my question to you. We can talk to each other all day. What is it that's holding us back from articulating our concerns to these entities, Carly?
Well, I think everyone's scared of becoming a Karen and vocalizing a complaint because, like I said before, it's a modern convenience. It's something that is luxe, really, in actuality. But I think if we're trying to make these big technological advancements and things that push our society forward and we're growing, then considering how to, have something at the height of a child in an area that you're going to have lots of children only makes sense. And the places that offer those things are, in my mind and in my heart, higher up on my favorites. So the first time I went to IKEA as a mom, I was so happy for just the small reason that in the bathroom there was a little seat that you could strap your toddler into, like while you used the restroom. And I had Rush, my oldest at the time, and that was such a nice thing that I could just put him in. And he loved that little seat. For some odd reason, it made him happy to be in it. That's not common, so maybe it was just like, miraculous moment. But it was really nice for me to be able to have that experience of like, I can pee in peace for a second because I could strap him into this little chair that they had on the wall. So when we can go back, I should have just told the IKEA, hey, thanks for having that. That really made my experience a lot better. Maybe that would help. Sometimes we're a little bit cautious to say, hey, why aren't you opening your play place yet? I mean, I've called several times, but also for those that have done it, thanking them.
Exactly. I actually had that experience recently as we were talking one day and kind of griping about the situation to one another. I thought, you know what? I finished that phone call prematurely because either Carly's or my kid wouldn't let us finish our phone conversation. And so I used 20 seconds to just hop on Instagram and send a quick message to our local Chick-fil-A and say, thank you for having your Chick-fil-A play place open because you're our home Chick-fil-A. And when we were just recently traveling out of town, there was another Chick-fil-A that wasn't open. And that was so frustrating for our family, my kids who are used to having Chick-fil-A's be open, and they've chosen not to. And I'm really grateful that y'all have chosen to cater to families. Thank you for making that choice and for valuing our business.
Yeah. And
the Chick-fil-A management sent me a message back and said, thank you so much for this message. It really means a lot. And I thought, I bet they don't get thank yous very often. Mm-hmm. You know, it's kind of an expectation that you don't really feel like you owe a thank you for in a way, right? Because you feel like you're entitled to it. And that is like one of my biggest pet peeves is when people, especially like my children, ever feel entitled. Like I don't want to have entitled children. And then I realize sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe I feel a little entitled. Yeah, totally. Like this business owes me a free play place. I feel like because I'm buying food, I deserve a free play place.
That was the standard before everything started changing. And we need to return back to that. It's lame to like cop out and be like, oh, but this is opportunistic. Mm-hmm. Let me be able to get away with not offering the same things that I did before, because what are the kids going to say? Or, hey, they're going to keep coming back.
Bring the play places back.
Please. Is this the thing I need to picket for?
Which I guess that shows that we really aren't wanting for much if those are the things we need to picket for. But it is still important. So I think Carly and I would definitely urge you, sisters, to don't be afraid of being a Karen. Voice your concerns. It's okay to speak up that you're dissatisfied with someone's lack of concern and care.
Or you noticed it.
That you've noticed it. Like, just speak up, because there is absolutely nothing wrong with voicing a concern, and we can do it in a polite way without being afraid of being called a Karen. And on the flip side, also be grateful. Thank those businesses that have chosen to make serving you a priority in the way that matters to you. So our mom would call that pencil whipping. She would say pencil whipping, and it would make me just chuckle because my boss when I was working called it a nasty gram if you ever wanted to write like a mean note.
That's funny.
Yeah, and mom would say pencil whipping. I grew up hearing her say that, like if she ever went to go do a bid or if she ever had to write a note, she'd say pencil whipping. So there's a little quirky Southern adage for you. Anyway, that would be one thing that we would say is an important aspect. But now what do? We're still in the same boat. We still don't have as many play places open as we want. What do? What is this idea of Fun Mom Summer Car?
So we want to be fun. We want to not be Karens, even with our kids. So taking the opportunity to enlist ourselves, our own talents, our own creativity, ingenuity, to help bring a fun summer to be. We're not outsourcing. We're not trying to have a place, a location that provides the fun, right? We bring the fun. It takes some time and forethought to craft the things that you want to do ahead of time, and it can get daunting, right? Because either you have kids that may be older and it takes a little bit more forethought to come up with something that will be engaging for them, or for me, I've got 3 little ones that I'm trying to wrangle and contain at the same time as provide something. So as Courtney and I talked about this, Courtney was a great reference for me in coming up with ideas for things I could do, not only with my kids, but inviting other moms and kids to partake in. Because if you're going to do something, if you're going to work on something, I think it's better to have more people involved in it. That's kind of how I go with like food. If I'm like making a meal, I'd much rather make a meal for 5 more people because it makes it feel more worth it for me. I don't like to cook, but hey, if I'm going to be doing it, I'd like to do something new. I'd like to theme it, and I'd like to invite more people to be a part of it.
That has been such a convenience even for us right now, is to have Carly visiting us, and for me and Carly to alternate making dinner. She would make dinner and make a big surplus to feed both sets of couples and all of our kids, and then I'd make dinner the next night, and it was just such an easier task to be like, oh, I don't have to make dinner tonight. Like, I don't have to worry about it. And I feel like it goes like that with play dates too, right? Like, it's so nice when you feel like you can plan something and you're like, hey, I've made extra for other kids. And it's been fun as Carly and I were thinking about some things that we could do. It is hard. Balancing your kids' needs is a difficult thing, especially when like you've got 3 and under. So that's a difficult age to feel like I can't really have a 3-year-old get super engaged in a treasure hunt because they can't read a map. Whereas if we were to do something like that together, my 7-year-old could lead the way, and it makes it more of a group effort. So I think that's where it's important to involve children of various ages in a play date. It's nice to be able to alternate houses. I just think that we should maybe share the ideas that we've talked about. And I will start. I'll say a few things that we've loved as far as play dates in the past, and I'll talk about some organizations that I've liked and things that they do that we still like to do a little later. But as far as things that we enjoy doing with friends, I've had a few play dates come to my mind that I remember loving over the last 2 years with the pandemic. I've had friends that have offered to have a Lego play date at their house. And that was so fun because one of my friends, her kids love Lego, and so she just opened up her house and said, we're going to have a Lego play date. At the time, my son really wasn't that into Lego. Now he's obsessed with it. But to go over to her house, and she had actually one room that was Lego and one room that was Duplo, which the Duplos are known as like the toddler. They're the bigger, they're more toddler friendly. She had this whole room that was like color coordinated, organized for Duplos, and it was so fun. And we had probably 8 to 10 moms show up with 20 kids total. And just to play Lego was so fun with these little kids. And they didn't know how to make them, but just to be together in a room that almost felt like you were in a Lego place. And she had it organized, and she hasn't done it again since. Maybe it was so hard that there's like no way she'd ever want to open her house to do that again. But that was such a saving grace for us that day. To be able to get out and do something was so nice. And another thing that another friend of mine's done is she has older kids. Her kids are 8 and 6, but she understands the importance of story time. She's actually an editor, so she offered to have a story time at her house. And so for several weeks in a row on Fridays, she would have story time at her house, and she would read 3 different books for 3 different ages of kids. Her kids weren't interested in a story time book. They're 8 and 6. My kids that are older still enjoy reading a story, but she was reading stories that didn't pertain to them. So it was just very thoughtful of her to do something for the younger kids. And then she would turn it into story time and then puzzles, and she would offer some puzzles that she had in her house for the kids to do. And I just thought those were 2 really thoughtful things that I've seen other friends do. And I think there's a lot of value to offering something. I feel like there is that karma, right? Like it'll return to you in some sort of way. And I really do try to host play dates. And so I appreciate it more when other people host them. Because I want to take advantage of that, because I'm like, yeah, great, something not in my house.
I think part of that is that when they're hosting it, like you said, she was an editor. And so there's probably part of her that wanted that to be available for kids because that was something that meant something to her in her heart and her personality. And so when we're talking about fun mom summer, not just hot mom summer or whatever, fun, we are fun. We're cool moms. We are fun to be around, and our kids need to see that side of us. And so for myself, I love themes. Just give me a theme and I can go with it. So if I can get an idea and say, I see this glimmer of a small theme and let's run with it. Now, I try to keep it simple, right? Because I've got little ones. So when I want to do something, maybe just keeping it to one thing. This woman who did Legos, it's nice to say, we're going to have a Lego play date, or we're going to do a play kitchen play date. And you can set how many kids you want to be there and things like that for just like the capacity and how you feel comfortable in your own space. But don't be afraid to say, I have Play-Doh and we're going to do a Play-Doh play date. or something along those lines, and keeping it to one item and taking away the rest. It's hard to do, but it also keeps the Playdate to an easier
It's more manageable.
Yeah, manageable. Exactly. So some of the things I wrote down as ideas I actually gotten from a resource that Courtney shared with me, just spitballing things I want to do this summer because I think they sound fun too. One was the Diet Coke geyser, which is with obviously Diet Coke and Mentos. My son just loves anything that can explode. I'm like, oh, that's exciting. Looking forward to how that plays out over time.
I'd have to say, I think I enjoyed it just as much as my kids. There was something really satisfying about watching an explosion.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. And I think we have enough Diet Coke around to make it happen. As we said before, it's hot outside in the summer in the South. Let's have options that are water-based, that don't just run your sprinklers dry or make your lawn sopping wet by the end. So one of those was the frozen t-shirt race. Do you want to explain it really quick?
Oh, yeah, it's so fun. So you just take a t-shirt, saturate it in some water, wad it up, put it into your freezer, and do a few of them, however many kids you've got, wad them up, or however many kids you want to invite over. Mm-hmm. And when all the kids are outside, you grab all the t-shirts out of the freezer, and you say, first one to get this t-shirt on.
Yeah.
And the t-shirts are frozen. They're frozen solid in a ball, and so the kids have to get the t-shirts out. Mm-hmm. It's not going to take more than 4 or 5 minutes, but it's just something to do to be a fun activity in the day.
Yeah. And if you want to come up with some kind of clever name for it that fits your theme of what you'd like to do, then go for it.
Maybe your theme is Frozen.
Yeah.
I will say another Frozen activity that we've done in the summer that my kids love, and going back to Lego, is I will freeze a Lego into a cup of water. So you get a whole cup. Mm-hmm. And then you have to break off the ice to get to the Lego inside. So anything that kids can just do outside with a cup of ice, anything that you can freeze that's small and the kids have to get to. I've also done it before where I actually had teeny tiny, do you remember Polly Pockets?
Yeah.
Okay, well I had some Polly Pockets, and so I put them into ice cubes, and my girls had to use their hands to warm the ice to get the Polly Pockets out. It was small,
That's funny.
But their hands were like, it burns.
You need to refer to them as icebreaker activities and do them at the beginning of summer. Wouldn't that be fun?
Icebreaker.
I'm like, I see it now. And then there's another one that I saw that you have a small kiddie pool and you put ice in it and water and you put marbles in it. And I'm guessing you could probably put anything that's small, and you have the kids use their toes to fish it out. That could be kind of fun. And of course the classics, you've got red light, green light. As a reference, it's not just screaming out the words. I thought this was funny. It was having one of the children, maybe one of the older kids, have on their shirt, the front has a red light and the back has the green light. So when they have their back turned, then you can run. But when they face you, then you have to stop. So it just, instead of you having to be the one to just call out the entire time, it creates its own self-sustaining game. That's what we really like, and we can maybe carry on a conversation for 2 minutes on the sideline.
Those are all fun little ideas, but the truth of the matter is all of these games are probably going to involve parent interaction. Anybody under age 6 or 7, I think that's where we can all agree we can be fun mom for 5 minutes. But these are all like low maintenance activities. Mm-hmm.
I mean, simple things, okay? Keep it simple. Like paper airplanes. Take one simple thing like that and say, what can I go around that? And think of something that your own kids would enjoy, but maybe if they haven't done it yet, or they've done it and been okay with it, think about how they would react to having more kids involved. Like Courtney said before, having a range of kids and age helps a lot to inspire them to go a little bit further, stay outside a little bit longer, do something, and be a little more creative with it. And it'll probably start out as one thing and then evolve into some new games, which is what you want. That's the great part of summer, is you get like a group of kids that would otherwise be in school during the day that you can involve and interact with. That's been one of the best things for me to see, is my son, my oldest, interacting with older kids and feeling so special from it. So I'm really excited about that for summer. And I think as we think about what we want to do, what we want to get out of the summer, just be a fun mom. Get out there and play with your kids, and play with the kids that come to play with your kids.
It's fun to play with other kids who are older than your kids. If you're in Carly's situation, it is nice to see what the potential looks like in 3 or 4 more years, that they can grow up and that you're like, oh, this is what I have to look forward to. Like, kids are more interactive. They can read. I mean, Carly was, like, shocked the other day when I said, hey, Cruz is going to help us make lunch.
Well, I totally thought you were like, well, Cruz is making sandwiches. And I was like, oh, she means Cam. She means her husband, obviously. And so I was like, Cruz? And then she said it again, and I was like, oh, I take it back. And he did a great job. He did much better than I could have.
Kids are more capable than the older kids are more capable than we sometimes remember to give them credit for. And they can do great things with a group play date, too. And I want to say, when we're saying group play date, we're not saying child swap, right? Watch somebody else's kids. I think it's super important to still have mom time. There is something magical about getting a few moms together and saying, hey, I've planned this activity. I had a friend who was like, hey, we got a new toy at Sam's Club or Costco. We want to play with this toy. Do you want to come over and play with this toy with us? Yes, of course we do. And those kinds of things are magical for my kids. They will love that toy. I'm not going to go buy that toy because we just played with it at their house and it takes up too much room. We're not going to buy it. I love when friends invite me over and say, hey, my husband had an impulse buy and bought a huge inflatable. It takes up half of our backyard. Come over and play with it. I'm like, absolutely, we'll be there in a heartbeat. Those are the kind of fun things that are really fun to do, and it doesn't require somebody having a birthday to do it, which is a rut that I sometimes get into, right? And that's what I want to do more of this summer, because we've actually purposefully not planned as many summer camps. I'm not enrolling my kids in as many things as I've done in years past. And even during COVID, I actually would book as many things during the summer as I could. I found everything that was open. We're going to take advantage of it because everything's been closed for the last year. So last summer, I think we had a camp every single week for craft camp, soccer camp, swimming lessons, anything I could possibly get my hands on. Singing camp. I was doing everything I could. Yeah. And it was wonderful. But this summer took a huge step back, not doing any of that. Right. And we're going to just enjoy time together. Right. And I do want to have more play dates. And so I want to be more intentional. I love those ideas you've shared. I think those are all great things that we can do. And do remember to reciprocate, and don't forget about the moms that have one little kid that's under 1 or 2. We want to remind you all of that because Carly and I have both been there. When you've got one kid, it feels very overwhelming. You feel, not overwhelming, actually, it feels kind of underwhelming. You know? You're like,
well, it depends. It's one of the most overwhelming, underwhelming kind of things. When you have one that totally occupies all of your time and attention, but they're like not quite at the state where you're having any interaction.
And you want to take them to a children's museum or to a zoo, but they're not really going to get anything out of it. And you are aware of that, and it's kind of hard. So if you're a mom listening to this and you have older kids, don't forget that the next time you go to the zoo, maybe to reach out to that mom that might have one little one. We want to just encourage you to remember those moms. If you've got a pass that allows you to bring a friend free to a museum, to a zoo, or if you just want to invite a mom to come over and hang out at your house while you play, give it a shot. It's always important to remember those moms, and it's going to be nice for them, and it'll be nice for you too, just to feel like maybe your time of assembling sandwiches gets to go towards having another kid in your house, and your kids get to maybe hold and play with a baby. It's a great opportunity. So you can have play dates with similar kids' ages, and don't forget you can go younger and older as well, and it's a great learning experience for our kids. Moms, we can survive without play places. For our call to action this week, it's 3-part, and we've pretty much already talked about it, but number 1 would be to give thanks to local businesses in your community. Part 2 would be voice your frustrations with businesses and organizations in your community that aren't meeting your needs and expectations. And part 3, host a play date. That would be the call to actions. And I did realize just now, Carly, I promised I would share some of my favorite businesses to take advantage of. So I just want to say really quickly, if you live in a community with a Harkins Movie Theatre, highly recommend that. They have summer movie programs that are offered in a lot of communities for a discounted price. You can go during the day, and that is a fantastic place to teach your children movie theater etiquette, because it's an environment where it's filled with other stay-at-home moms mostly, and it's not a quiet atmosphere, but you're trying to teach your children to stay through the duration of a movie. It's a lot better to experiment in that atmosphere than on a Friday night when a movie finally comes out that everybody's been waiting for in that theater, and then your kids are the ones screaming and crying. But anyway, I think those are great. If you have the opportunity to try that, it's like $8 for the whole summer for each member of your family, and you get 8 movies, so it's like around $1 a movie to go to this theater. And if you can pair it with popcorn perks and a loyalty soda refill, I'm all in. And if you can get another mom to go with you, that way you can trade off being with a baby in diapers in the hall, excellent. So that would be at least one offering that I would highly recommend.
Also, if you don't have places near you, I mean, we talked about before how you would go to a play place and you buy some meals or something. For the cost of those meals, if you were to get 3 kids meals, happy meals. You could buy a toy, buy something, or make something, use items with that same amount of money to create a much more enjoyable experience for your kids. Online vendor that you can use is Oriental Trading Company. If you go on their website, they have a whole section for summer games and other things, and you can even check what kind of price point you want to keep it under. I would definitely recommend looking at those. You don't need to have it for a party per se. You could just make it for your play date and say, I'm going to do this treasure hunt and I just want to buy this little treasure chest to have, because it just elevates it a little bit more to incentivize me to do it, to have the people over. So be creative with it. Have something that, hey, for $15, I get this thing and have people over, and that's definitely well worth that investment. We want to motivate all of us moms, we're included in this, to be creative this summer, to stay out of the heat and have some cool fun with our kids.
Fun Mom Summer! With today's episode, please check out our show notes, where we're going to include links to some of our favorite summer resources and links to our social media, where we'll be updating y'all throughout the summer with stories about our fun Mom Summer attempts. So don't forget the call to action. Definitely give thanks to local businesses and entities who are offering your family the reprieve that you need. Part 2, don't be afraid to voice your frustrations and speak up. And Part 3, host a play date. Be brave, come up with something creative, invite some moms and children over to come and enjoy your house, your play date, things you have to offer. And also, if you feel like you don't have a house that's a great place to offer a play date, I'll add to that. I've had somebody ask me before if they could use my house to have a play date, and she had a fantastic Friendsgiving. And it was so awesome. She planned everything. She made sure people brought the food. She had games prepared, and she had it at my house because she was living in an apartment at the time.
Yeah, and form alliances with people where you're like, hey, I am really good at doing this. Do you want to form an alliance and have fun this summer?
Please join us next week for another Hot Topics episode. We're so excited y'all are joining us for this series. And sisters, have a fantastic week. We'll talk to y'all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bring your talents together, or what you want to offer. Go for it.
Carly's being attacked by a fly.
I am, sorry.